so nice to be here crashing Anthony's party. It's exciting to be hosting a panel. I appreciate him giving our digital tech practice that's very much focused on consumer some airtime. I was going to thank him for 20 good minutes, but apparently it's 19 good minutes now. So great to have Josh and Joe up here. Want to get some background on you guys. What does consumers' digital revolution mean to you? Tie in your role, what you're focused on, and then we'll jump into some questions.
Me go first? Yeah, sure. For me, or for Rent the Runway, and even myself, it's really everything that we do. And essentially, for those of you, I'm looking out at this audience, and I imagine there's only a small percentage that know what Rent the Runway is, which is not my normal existence. We are, in my humble opinion, the largest technology and data-driven reverse logistics inventory management platform that happens to be fronted by a clothing rental company. And for that to work, we look at consumer as a utility. Like, we look at this as a utility, right? And so for us and the consumer behavior that we are changing, this is not something that is a nice to have. Like, we exist for the eradication of the closet. And the mental shift that needs to happen in every consumer and every user of our product. And every step of the way, from the technology to the logistics to the inventory to the absolute moment of the Cinderella experience, as we call it, the consumer is front and center, and so is the technology.
I need to meet you. I have a daughter who is an aspiring model.
I got codes. Come find me.
And it's quite costly profession.
Yes.
So I understand your business. Nice to meet with you. My name is Joe Eng. I am the Chief Information Officer for a company called Travelclick. And I think our experience is not just what many of you probably do, is having to digitize your own enterprise, but we have a customer base. Our customers in the travel and hospitality industry are hotels, or mainly hotels. And we're providing technology solutions to hotels on how to run their business. So our goal with digitization is how we reach out and help our customer to become more digital, because that's what our business is about, and how they touch the consumer. The end consumer of the hotel is who we're trying to help the hotel be better with. So possibly through this panel, we can get a little bit of that.
So it's a little bit of B2C and then B2B2C. Ultimately, regardless of how you're getting to the end customer, there's just a proliferation of channels. So many channels. The revolution is that the consumer is everywhere. So we'd love to get a sense from both of you. Maybe Joe, you'll start. When you're working with your clients, with the hotels, where should they be going to get the customer? What are optimal acquisition channels? There are a ton of them, so how do you find the ones that work?
Yeah, for our business, I think, and the thing we've learned, and I think it's applicable for many industries, is you have to play in many channels. To focus on particularly one channel, I think is kind of naive or too simple. In travel and hospitality, the recognition that you, as the consumer, have so many ways to assess, decide, purchase, experience travel and hospitality. So for us, it's about working with our hotel customer. First of all, just to get them to start thinking about it as a different approach to reaching their customer. A lower cost approach, a much more effective approach. But it's reaching out direct channels, web mobile, their own web mobile presence, but also indirect. Our digitalization effect is to help them work with other third parties to get their digital footprint out through others. Hotels have to figure out how to use Expedia or Booking.com and others to reach, because the consumer may not come direct and may come indirect. And so our goal is to help them understand the multiplicity of channels they have, and then also with data to help them assess and monetize which channels may be better for putting out certain products out in certain periods of time.
For us, it's evolved tremendously over the last 3 years. So we've been around. This fall will be our 10th anniversary, which makes us a startup digital grandmother in New York City. And for the first 7 years of our business, we were known and were primarily an event rental business. You needed a dress for a wedding, a party, a fundraiser or something like that. Like, we were your go-to. And it meant that our customer was extremely knowable. It was like, what event is she come? Is it a wedding? Is it a cocktail party? But still a very slim, profile of customer. And it meant that the average customer rented from Rent the Runway about 2.7 days a year. And 3 years ago, back to what I said, the eradication of the closet was always our theme. 2.7 days a year, not enough. We launched a subscription business, which is much more casual, much more wider inventory that's meant to get you dressed every day. And we launched the business, and in about 7 weeks, it went from 2.7 days a year to 120 days a year. And we found that every single thing, every channel that we had, and every business rule and every platform that we had sort of, it's like we disrupted ourselves, but we're like, oh shit, we disrupted ourselves. And it really meant a complete revamp of how we interacted with our customer. Now she's coming to us more than 120 times a year, right? And so it means that the channels that we need to interact with her need to be much more varied, right? Because sometimes she is coming for a high stakes event. Sometimes she's coming because she wants to shop. Sometimes she's bored. Sometimes she's traveling, like all of these things. And so it meant not only the proliferation of the ways in which, from a digital standpoint, she could interact with us, and I think that's like common omni-channel stuff through the app, through the text, chat, and all of that stuff. But it actually meant a complete repurposing of our physical locations with technology. And so what we started to do was we had stores, but the stores were like people in like black turtlenecks with champagne to try to get you dressed for like a fancy event and like try something on. And we shifted those completely to be these service centers that were geared around technology. So now you can walk by on your way to work. People like come in, get dressed for work, come in after work, drop their stuff off and get changed and walk out. And it meant a completely new channel or set of channels that we had to develop that revolved around brick and mortar in a way that was never, we're a digital business. It never really made sense for brick and mortar to be a main channel for us, but it just sort of made sense. And I think we were just in a position to embrace it and go with it.
So the consumer is driving all this ultimately. We talked about how you leverage data to get smarter, figure out what they want. Can you both speak to the critical metrics to make sure that you're continuing to evolve so you are touching that consumer correctly in whatever channel or mix of channels it is? Go ahead.
Yeah, for our business, or for our customers' business, we're trying to drive more visitors, guests. That's a metric, a macro metric. It's not just more. It ends up being, it's a typical sales funnel, is how we're driving conversion. Just because you can drive more visitors or guests to your digital experience, whether direct or indirect, if you're not getting to conversion, which ultimately is your profitability, then who really cares? Being able to boast that you had 2 times more growth in website visitors, but no change in your conversion, conversion makes no difference. So you want more guests, you want more visitors, but then you also need to drive what's the conversion. And then for a hotel, it's not only once you get that conversion, metrics about how do you then retarget them and get repeat business. So digitization is now another form of building not just an experience to bring them in the door the first time, but to establish a relationship on an ongoing basis through promotions, through asking them how the experience was, getting their feedback, reminding them about that they were a consumer and there's specials going on and how to drive that repeat. Because that also leads to a lower cost of acquisition. If you already have that customer, you can turn that into a repeat customer on an ongoing basis. So those would be some, there's many metrics, but those are kind of the macro metrics, like number of guests, conversion rate, and repeat.
Yeah,
would be some of the main metrics we try to drive out with our customers.
Go ahead, Josh.
So I have a lot of metrics in my head to answer this question. I think we run a funnel, and so the traditional sort of conversion metrics kind of apply in so much as, this is it's $159 a month, the subscription, which is way cheap if you buy clothes, but it's a real lift, and so I'd say in the funnel for us, it's more about quality than it is about just like traffic and the traditional elements of it. But more importantly is the metrics that indicate like a switching of a behavior for us. And so there's a time, fashion has been for all of its entirety this thing where like you go shopping, you put this on, you're like, I like it, yes, I don't like it, no, bad experience, right? And for us, when you get something for the first time, that like the things that may cause you to churn, which is like 2 out of the 4 things that I put on right now didn't fit me, are the exact things that will keep you in this for a very long time, because you're like, I'm trying all kinds of stuff. Like, I don't necessarily care if it fits me because I'm experimenting with things that I haven't. So the metrics for us center around wear rate, days at home, trying to figure out the right assortment to show a user in their particular journey. If in the beginning we're trying to cultivate a safer profile of inventory, things that we know will fit larger bases of users, and try to evolve that over time to actually switch it to like things that cause you to experiment, cause you to feel free, cause you to break that paradigm of this linear shopping. And if we're able to do that and we track those metrics along the way, we can shift a behavior so that leaving us to go buy things just doesn't feel the same anymore. And then of course we have metrics around our inventory. We run the largest dry cleaning business in the world out of Secaucus, New Jersey, soon to double that in Dallas. And so the amount of turns, the data-driven dry cleaning, the threads, the materials, like those metrics matching up with the consumer are also very important.
But Josh, isn't that getting to that? To get even more digital, what ends up happening is having to collect so many more, call it data points, to drive different particular metrics or assessments, so you can, I think, be more agile in changing that experience or what you would offer to a consumer. I'm hearing that from your business is very similar to us. We have just been driven to, and we've had to drive it ourselves, like having to use the end-to-end cycle, the end-to-end process of working with our end guest, pre-stay, purchase, the stay, post-stay, and you're collecting and having to figure out how to collect all these different points, their experience digitally, on-premise, and how to collect that and then focus that back in to make adjustments on an ongoing basis. It goes back to, if you know this consumer has a certain type of buying pattern or a typical interest, that would lead you, and the technology allows you to do that much better with the data and to be able to then go retarget and do some algorithmic types of things, and allows a hotel to be smarter with its, and in our case, a hotel to be smarter with its end consumer.
Yeah. I want to shift gears. A few minutes left. There are a lot of fantastic brands in this room, iconic brands. I'm curious to get your thoughts on competition from those brands that aren't digitally native. How do you see them? How do you approach them? The opportunities and threats that it provides you as both digitally native.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You're the newbie brand.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Actually, interestingly, Rent the Runway is in an extremely weird and unique position in that we don't have any fundamental competitors at the moment. We have tremendous competition for her spend on fashion, absolutely, from all of those brands. But if you think about what we do, like to me, it's differentiation, right? So like we have all of these brands who are starting to, like wade into realizing that retail is dying, realizing that people aren't shopping the same way, realizing that people's concepts of ownerships is shifting underneath their feet, and they're trying these small things. And for us, it comes down to like looking at them and saying, if you take a Stitch Fix, if you take all of these other brands, like they still remain trying to get you to get more shit in your closet. And we are on the complete other side of that, which is that we don't think you should have a closet. And that line for us is where we dig in and we look and we enunciate that. And I think when you're in an industry where you're a newbie like we are, and there are these much larger players who are looking around and being like, why can't I just flip the switch on this? And assuming that they could, because it's not that easy. But who are you? What's your identity? And like, how do you use, especially from my perspective, how do you use technology and product to be offensive about that and really pronounced in your consumer's eyes and certainly in the industry in a way that these other larger brands just couldn't do?
Scott, before we got up here, we had a little chat about unencumbered startups or brands versus legacy, and I think it's always cliche or vogue to say you wish you wasn't held back with all your legacy or or the accompaniments that people talk about.
10 years in, I feel that way too. Yeah.
You can look at it that way, and I think there are some disadvantages because you come from a certain vestige. But I think what we've found that digitization and getting the benefits of it has to come through scale. And as an existing brand, in our case, hotels, a hotel brand that has been around and has a customer list. Now, they may not have been able to figure out how to best optimize or do it, but they at least have customers. And then you can do something with them. I think is something that we try to help our hotels understand, as opposed to becoming all, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, I've never done this before. Be thankful you have already existing customer base to work from, and start there.
Yeah, fantastic. Really appreciate the candid thoughts. Look forward to continuing the conversation, and guess we are pivoting to a break now. Is that right, Anthony? All right.